There are UFO photos with entities inside and otherworldly biological samples, according to what Louis Elizondo claims. Former Pentagon UFO agent claims the U.S. has UFO photos with aliens sitting inside and recovered otherworldly biological samples. The UFO community has never been more active than it is now. The phenomenon has always been around us, but due to the lack of transparency, it never became so open to discuss. Since the last decade, the number of UFO sightings has increased, and now we're shooting these objects in the air, leaving the whole world to watch them. Even after thousands of UFO cases, including photos and videos, we've no clue who is behind it. China, Russia, and the United States have their experts to investigate these UFOs, UAPs, but surprisingly, they do not blame each other. Perhaps it's non-human technology and no one has any idea from where it came, as filmmaker Jeremy Corbell claims. It's really shocking and weird that nobody paid attention to former ATIP head Louis Elizondo's statement about UFO occupancy and biological samples. With Kurt J. Mungal on his Theories of Everything TOE podcast back in 2021, Elizondo carefully hinted that potentially the U.S. government has acquired otherworldly biological samples. He also suggested that the government has images of UAPs that appear to show beings inside them. Elizondo spent 20 years as a military intelligence officer in the Pentagon, and during his career he ran the most secretive UFO program, Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, ATIP. In 2017, after the expose of this secret program, Elizondo whistleblew many things he had learned from UFO about these UFOs and possible non-human intelligence. Have there potentially been biological samples recovered? Kurt asked. Elizondo said yes. I'm not going to expound on that, and be careful when I say that. I'm being purposefully very open and vague at the same time, right? What does that mean? Well, it means what it means. And besides, when asked if there are photos that show occupants inside the craft, Elizondo said, there are some very compelling photos out there that seem to show something inside, some sort of occupancy, and I'll leave it at that because it gets really murky, which much beyond that. And there's a lot that can be speculated, and so I try to avoid speculation as much as possible. But yes, I've spoken to enough people with first-hand knowledge that not only report the crafts that we know exist, but potentially some sort of intelligence inside these vehicles. Why isn't this topic being discussed by everyone on the planet? Is it feasible that the majority of the people are disregarding this news, even if they are aware of it? At what point does the truth and its mind-boggling consequences become too conspicuous to overlook? The UFO occupancy case. Keeping Elizondo's words in mind, there is a UFO crash incident outside of Edwards Air Force Base involving a contactee survivor with at least one other witness. It happened to a young woman named Lorraine Dvorak Cordini in 1971, and this case is mentioned in different books with minor changes. And according to eyewitnesses, one summer evening in 1971, the calm Californian night was suddenly broken by a sharp, unearthly roar, which ended with an equally frightening rumble. When people ran out of their houses, a large cloud and signs of flames were visible near Edwards Air Force Base in California. Several people stated that they had allegedly seen 3 gray humanoids, as well as a human woman in a strange, tight-fitting pink suit, among the ruins of some wrecked vehicle. However, before anyone knew what had happened, a lot of military trucks and other vehicles arrived and quickly isolated the area. In addition, they removed the debris and any sign of the incident that took the humanoids and the women with them. Some residents assumed that they were taken to Edwards military base. A witness named Debbie Clayton reported that she had heard a loud crash noise. There was a cloud of dust outside her home. Ufologist Albert Rosales tracked down the mysterious woman in pink bodysuit, and she agreed to undergo a hypnotherapy session to remember the events of that night. Lorraine claimed that she had been abducted from her home, dressed in pink clothes, and taken to a large ship in Earth orbit for an inspection. She was then put in a smaller ship the one that crashed and sent back to Earth with several strange creatures. She woke up already in the military hangar. Even stranger, at least according to the hypnosis session, while being there she saw not only military personnel, but also strange creatures with large heads, different from those that took her out of her room. Needless to say, this whole story seems very strange and raises doubts about its veracity. Clayton was baffled when she found no newspaper written about the story, and there was no news about it on TV as well. It was the first case of the only human survivor found at a crash retrieval. Researchers Richard Gedrich Jr. has written details on this case and found the identity of the witness and contactee. Lorraine, or Lori, was working on her autobiography in 2009, but it never came out, perhaps because she passed away before bringing it to the world. Elizondo is certain about UFO occupancy and recovered alien biological samples. He even gave his candid take on the 1947 Roswell case in New Mexico, and more in an interview with Roswell Daily Record. He said he had conversations with so-called graybeards at the Pentagon who had been involved with UAP since Project Blue Book. It was from these individuals that Elizondo learned what probably occurred at Roswell in 1947. He said the individuals were convinced that the events in New Mexico were not fiction, in fact that it was a very much and real event, and that some very exotic material was recovered. And then there was a subsequent effort to try to be very dismissive about that, what occurred in New Mexico. On UAP phenomenon, Elizondo noted, "This is something we've been dealing with for a long time. Imagine the first person to get on a boat and sail over the horizon. There's stories of sea monsters and krakens that will devour you and destroy your boat. Yet we did it anyways. We did sail and we explored the world. It turns out 500 years later, there really are sea monsters. We call them the great squid of the Pacific and great white sharks and whales. Now they're just part of nature and have a specific name, but those sea monsters still exist. They're there, we just learn to understand them. Maybe this is the same thing. Maybe this is just another expedition over the horizon where we're going to realize what we thought were monsters are really just our neighbors." And this is by Collective Spark, Vicky Vermehausen Wise. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Please support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support, and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.